All right, welcome back, everyone, to another live episode of Sky U Pod. As always, we appreciate you for joining us and look forward to discussing some Gopher football with you all. Just a reminder, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and available wherever you listen to your podcast. So feel free to like and subscribe as it helps spread the awareness of our show. Also, you can check us out at thecollegehuddle.com, where you can find several podcasts from across the country supporting many of the college football teams here in the nation. Um, we really enjoy that you all have kept up with us all this time. We look forward to the future. But let's get started, fellas. We got some news to cover here before we jump into our main topic. The Gophers received 5 new transfer commits since our last show, and they're big ones, fellas. Players are defensive end Jackson Howard. He's from LSU, 4 years remaining. He was a guy that, was maybe coming to Minnesota back in the day. Now we finally got him here, so that'll be exciting. Another defensive end, Adam Kisai from Clemson. He also has 4 years remaining. Wide receiver, Tyler Williams from Georgia, a former top 120 recruit and 4 years remaining. Quarterback, Dylan Whitkey from Virginia Tech, 4 years remaining as well. And offensive tackle, Aluma Nkele from UTEP, 6'7", 360-pounder with 2 years remaining. Some guys that we lost to the portal with that as well, naturally. Since last episode, wide receiver Jalen Varner transferred during the winter, and then Dallas Sims, the other wide receiver, true freshman, only spent the springtime here, had offers from Purdue and Indiana out of high school. Best of luck to them. But fellas, any standout, players you're looking forward to? Comments on these commitments, these departures? What do you think?
Obviously getting Jackson Howard, that was definitely the big one. Would have been the number one, or was the number one player out of Minnesota a few years back. So it kind of now retroactively kind of continues the streak of keeping the top player in Minnesota, even though he technically didn't, wasn't committed to us out of high school, but still is on our team now. So it's kind of nice to have that streak going. And just nice too that for the most part, we get those guys for more than a year that, especially with guys like Howard, that we still get him for 4 years, that it's kind of like we just got him out of high school or out of JUCO, that we get some use out of him for years to come. So that'll help a lot. Not have to, turn it over every single year just off of transfers.
Yeah, like you said, Max, it's great that all these guys have multiple years with us. Jackson Howard's obviously the standout. I mean, he was the highest rated player out of high school that we got. The other DN from Clemson was committed to us for a short time before flipping. Spent the spring with Clemson and then decided to opt out and transfer here, which is great. About those guys, we're losing Jod Joyner and Danny Striganow, I believe, after this season. So getting both of those guys in here with those years of eligibility remaining behind them is huge. Just great depth adds. And I think Jackson Howard has a chance to contribute right away. The one that does have me the most excited, though, is the offensive tackle. Not just because of his massive size, which is great. I mean, it's very Daniel Faalele-esque, right? When you just see his size on paper, playing right tackle probably, if he gets to start there. But they've wanted to move Quinn Carroll inside for so long, and I feel like this is the guy they really focused in on based off what was out there that they realistically could get. So I'm hoping that this is our starting right tackle next year, and it allows Quinn Carroll to bump inside to his maybe more natural position there and just strengthen this offensive line in general. So I'm excited about that, Ed.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And, it seems like we really landed some guys from the portal from those positions that we really needed. Um, so, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys bring to the table this season. But with that being said, let's jump into our main topics today, fellas. Let's start by looking at the depth chart. Specifically, let's start with the offensive side of the depth chart. Who do you think sticks out? What sticks out on this offensive side of the ball? Who intrigues you the most? Biggest concerns? Kurt, let's start with you on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is just our projection. Like I said, I was hoping the new right tackle would take over, and so that's where we put him in. You got Quinn Quero then at guard, Greg Johnson center, Tyler Cooper left guard, and Ariante Ursary at the left tackle spot. To me, that's what I'm most excited about. Outside of the running back room, I think our run blocking up front will be the strength of this team. And then you're deep at receiver. How much of that will be proven guys and how much we're going to get out of them based on what we're allowed to call this year? We will see. But as we can see, we got Elijah Spencer at one outside spot, Daniel Jackson at the other, and Lemecki in the slot. I would imagine that Daniel Jackson can play slot as well, especially if one of those young guys like the Tyler Williams transfer out of Georgia, the big 6'4" guy, if he can get some quality reps on the outside. I think they'll use every opportunity they can to move Daniel inside and just create mismatches that way. But yeah, I mean, overall, to me, I think the strength of this team will be running the ball. Shocker, but I just really like how this offensive line is set up right now to get down and get nasty in the trenches.
Yeah, I mean, the depth at offensive line excites me a lot, especially the depth and just the experience that they bring in. Even Greg Johnson, the sophomore, I mean, he played quite a bit last year as a freshman, so even the young guy comes in with a lot of experience. And like you alluded to, Kerr, bringing in Keeley, it's just that flexibility then too that Carroll can play probably a stronger position at right guard than right tackle. I mean, he kind of made a sacrifice last year, and we're glad that he did to play right tackle. But if he can slide into guard and plays more natural or play to his strength, that's gonna be huge too to even get an improved version of a guy who was already productive. So that's exciting to me. Touch on the run blocking. I think having Nick Collerup being the starting tight end. Obviously, we don't know. Pass catching probably not his forte. They haven't used him as much in that down the field passing. Having Revan span forward is the big reason why. But obviously, if we can have a tight end that can catch some passes, whether it's Collar or Gears or whoever's going to step up to kind of be that pass or threat in the pass game, will be nice to have. But I feel like Collar having him just be that extension of the offensive line is going to be huge in the run game since it's already kind of our strength. So having that added piece that can play on the right side, the left side, he can kind of play off the ball and do that wham block or whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
And then if they can kind of wrinkle in some pass plays to him, that'll be pretty nice. But I think the biggest strength to me, obviously, it has been the strength is just the running back position. Having Darius Taylor back, hopefully healthy. I think I saw a stat. And part of it was just with how well we were playing early in the year, but I think he only played in like 4 fourth quarters throughout the entire season last year, which that number needs to improve. But hopefully with the transfer we brought in and Bangura and Majors, and then even if Newman can step up too and kind of be that three-headed monster committee as a backup, hopefully Taylor doesn't have to carry the ball 30 times every single game for us to be productive.
Yeah, I just want to add into the praises of Callerup, what he brings you in his experience, because I believe it's his 5th or 6th year. I don't remember when he got here with regards to COVID and everything. He's on his last year of eligibility, 6th year. Mm-hmm. They don't feel they're least confident in the right tackle's pass blocking. I would think that's fair to say at this point, just with wanting to move Quinn inside. He's better with the strength than he is agility. So even bringing in this larger what's his name? Nikili, I'm sure I'm butchering it. But anyway, bringing him in at right tackle, having Callerup, an experienced guy that's been playing in pass protecting situations already, having him help chip edges guy and just the guys on the edge lined up out there just to slow them down and help out. Like it just adds in a big part to your team that probably doesn't get recognized by a lot of casual viewers, but just having him back and just knowing this offense is going to be big, helping out whoever ends up winning the starting right tackle job.
Totally agree with you both. I probably am looking at the offensive line of what stands out the most. I mean, the depth, the talent there. It's going to be exciting. We're obviously going to be able to run the ball. And I think that's one of the intriguing parts is this maybe a slightly concern too, the running game. We know that Darius Taylor can run the ball very effectively. he was a little beat up last season because we ran him into the ground pretty much. So it'll be interesting to see how these transfer running backs kind of play out. We have the Mac transfer. Um, is it Bangura? Um,
Yeah.
and I kind of look at last season with the Sean Tyler Mac transfer, and obviously they're two different players, two different schools and everything. But hopefully that works out. You know, Majors from Oklahoma. He also was in. He had some injuries throughout his career. Hopefully he stays healthy. He's a big running back. It'd be pretty cool to see him just kind of run up the gut, maybe goal line situations, third and short situations. And then Newbin, we know what Newbin can do. He kind of held down the fort when his number was called. So I'm confident that he can do well. But I think what intrigues me is this wide receiver group. I mean, you
I'll
look
pull it
at
back
it.
up here just so we can look at it. But
I mean, just
that's the
think
defense.
about
Thank you.
these receivers here: Daniel Jackson, Elijah Spencer, Lemecki Brockington. Those are your top three guys that are going to be able to run routes, catch the football, and these guys have probably the biggest, I'd say, upside to them is just their talent. We know what Daniel Jackson can do. He's been the number one guy for a few years. I feel like Lemecki Brockington, before he got injured, he was on track to be a stellar receiver this year. And I'm really confident that he's going to step up and be a great receiver. And Elijah Spencer, he's built like an X. It'll be awesome to see him go up and get a ball. We didn't really utilize him in a way that I'd like to last year. But this year, I'm confident that we'll kind of increase that passing game and hopefully get them involved. And those are just three of the guys, and we have, several other guys kind of lined up behind them. So I'm looking forward to see what we do with them.
I would just add, I really like our starting three. I'm pretty confident in. We got to talk about Tyler Williams. I'll ask you guys this first. Max, we'll start with you. What are realistic expectations for Tyler Williams? You think he's a young player. He went through one season at Georgia, played in 2 games. I think I think there were kind of lesser games there. He missed out on spring ball, but we still got him here. Happy to have him. So just what are you expecting to realistically get out of him this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, realistically, what I hope for is that he's just a red zone threat. If anything, he can come in and be that size mismatch at 6'4", and that's just something that as good as he is, as good as everyone else is a pass catcher or a route runner, you really can't replicate the mismatch, right? So even though Elijah Spencer is bigger, Tyler Williams is he's going to dominate everyone potentially just from a size standpoint. So hopefully we can utilize him in that way. We'll see. Hopefully it's not already blanking on his name, the transfer.
Dalen Wright.
Yes. Hopefully it's not an exact Dalen Wright situation where we just don't utilize him. And when we do, he struggles, but
right.
I don't know, realistically. And this is not a shot at Elijah Spencer, but I feel like of the 3 starters, probably has the most likely chance of beating out an Elijah Spencer versus a Lemecki Brockington,
Sure.
and obviously Daniel Jackson, just because those 2 guys are already they're so much more proven than an Elijah Spencer is at this point.
Yeah, and I think Williams, just his talent alone. I mean, he was a top 120 player out of high school.
Right. Yeah.
Probably pushes him onto the field, just like you said, at least in red zone situations. But yeah, Spence, what about you? Do you agree that Elijah Spencer's spot is probably the most open for grabs of any of the starters, I should say?
Absolutely. And it's not a knock on him. I don't think we used Elijah Spencer that well last year. Like Max said, Daniel Jackson is solidified. He's been the top receiver here. And Lemecki, like I said, he was looking like he was definitely going to be that number 2 guy before he went down with injury. I think that those two PJ's the kind of guy that really likes to know that you're able, to get the job done. He likes to trust his players. He likes that they've had that been in the situations, and, someone he can put trust in. Obviously, those two have had it. And, Tyler Williams, he definitely has the ability. to gain that trust, I mean, breakout speed, he's probably like Max was saying, I do see a little bit of Dalen Wright within him. Just hopefully it pans out a little better, but certainly,
Yeah.
definitely Elijah Spencer is the spot he could go for.
Yeah, I've seen a few fans throw out the Rashad Bateman comparison. I don't want to put that high of pressure on him or anything. He is Rashad Bateman was from the state of Georgia, so I think that's where it's coming from. But I agree, from like a physical standpoint, he looks a lot more like a Dalen Wright as far as his physicality and how he looks on the field. So hopefully he can put it together a little bit faster, a little bit better than it worked out for Wright. But one guy I want to bring up again, because I've heard his name. And by the way, I just want to say this for Elijah Spencer. He is one of the names I've heard like the most positive things about from somebody I know who is actually around the practice. So I think Elijah Spencer's looking great, and I expect him to have a much better season, regardless of what the coaches chime in or, call. But I think Elijah Spencer will be just fine. Really, I think Tyler Williams is adding a nice depth piece, which we haven't had. New Case, who we currently have listed at like the third slot position, but that's just us guessing because he's a smaller guy. So I'm assuming he would play inside. Been told we've heard he's a speed demon, can go up and make contested plays. I'm hoping that he can find a spot in that return game because I got to imagine that return game is open for grabs just on the lack of success we had last year. But anyone else other than those top four guys that you guys are really looking at that could have an impact this year?
It's hard because we haven't seen much of them.
That's
Right.
True. Yeah, PJ's been secret about
almost
everything.
all the same. I mean, we've seen Redding in the return game, but that's about it. I mean,
Yeah.
here we haven't seen it
Yeah.
all. Driver coming from Penn State, haven't really seen much.
Right.
Hoskins, they don't know.
You had Kendrick Lanier, who's the former 4-star, got some time in the bowl game. Heard nice things about him. Sounds like he took a bit of a jump from the, post end regular season before the bowl game. Sounded like he was looking really good. So they got options. It's just how well is it all going to click together? That's remains to be seen. And then quarterback. I mean, you just got to hope Max Brosmer does not get hurt because let's talk about the new guy for a second there. Dylan Whittaker. I'm happy they got someone with that many years left. I think if you were to ask PJ in a conversation where he had to be honest with you, he wanted someone that had some playing experience regardless of where it was. Clearly that was not an option. They tried to get that guy from Fresno State who ended up transferring or decommitting, transferring down a level just to be like the guaranteed starter. So it's a much easier task, on paper than it is to actually get someone to come in and commit to being the backup when they only have a year or two left. So I don't blame them. I like that we got someone from a Power 5 school. Clearly he had potential. I just, got to protect the quarterback. We've had pretty good quarterback injury luck, knock on wood. Don't want an Iowa situation this year, but yeah, Max Brosmer definitely, I think, is the most important person to stay healthy on this entire offense. Let's see here. We got Dave Walensky. Who do you think will be our next tight end? Well, Callerup will be the blocking one. Jamison Greers is the guy that all signs are pointing to be the receiving threat. Hasn't been able to stay healthy that much. Last year was relatively healthy, but we had Spanford. And I think Greers was again banged up this spring from what I've heard. So he'll be the guy that gets the first look. And then they have the redshirt freshman, Pierce Walsh, who they really like and who's an athletic guy that they think they'll be able to throw the football to. I think they would like him to sit one more year if possible, but I mean, he's going to be third on the depth chart for sure. So I'm sure he'll get out there at some point, one way or the other. So Pierce Walsh and Jamison Greers, as far as receiving threats, I think is who you're going to see from the tight end.
I totally agree. Callerup's a phenomenal blocker, but in 2 seasons only has had 8 targets. So I think you're spot on, Curdy. I think that Gears is going to be the guy that's going to get most of the targets this season. But I'm okay with that. I think that,
Yeah.
given our offensive situation, blocking is going to be the most important thing, from the tight end there. We're going to run the football a bunch. We unfortunately really haven't utilized the tight end in the throwing game, it
Yeah.
seems like, in the past few seasons. So with that in mind, I wish we did utilize it, but again, it's really just going to be a blocking sort of position.
I hope just somebody is used out of the tight end spot, to be honest.
Yeah.
That would be my answer to the question. Like, we're
Right.
running the ball so much, it's just natural for it to be there off the play action. Look at Iowa. Iowa doesn't have any receivers, no
Yeah.
passing game. They can always get the ball to their tight ends because they run the ball
They're
all the
always in the
time. So
NFL. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It should be there, but
hmm
easier said than done. Of course, I'm just,
Right.
armchair quarterbacking it, but.
Not to spend too much time on him, but kind of bring it back to Tyler Williams too. I mean, we did see at times when they would go 4 wide last year that Brevin span forward would be spread out. So it's not crazy to think too that what if Williams just kind of plugs into that passing concept, not necessarily as a tight
That's
end, but
true.
he could. I would hope he can run those routes better than a
Yeah.
tight end.
No, that's a good point. And then you have Daniel Jackson and Lemecki as your two inside guys, which is probably their more natural fit, just based off
Right.
their builds. I mean, Daniel Jackson's just a great route runner, so he's going to play wherever they want him to. But yeah, if Tyler can catch up to speed, just having the ability to have Daniel Jackson slide inside is going to be a mismatch.
Yeah. Well, right on, fellas. That's the offensive side of the ball. Let's turn to the defense here, kind of go over the same things. What stands out? Who intrigues you the most? And what are some concerns that you all have about this defense? Curdy,
Yeah.
let's start with you.
Well, let's just go over projections quick. We got Danny Striganow at one end with Jaw Joyner opposite. From all reports, Jalen Logan Redding has been playing defensive tackle this spring. So I'm a big fan of that. I think he's definitely your top 4 defensive linemen. So getting him on the field more, which will also create more time for Anthony Smith behind Jaw Joyner, I'm a big fan of that. Logan Richter will be backing up Devin Eastern. Devin Eastern is your stud. I don't know which D tackle he'll be at. They'll probably rotate him around based on the team they'll play or even play to play. But I feel really good about the D line. I think the defensive ends especially are a strength. And I'm hoping Jackson Howard gets on the field at the same time as Jaw Joyner too, just because I'd like to see them both rushing the passer at the same time, just because even in his limited time, he's shown the ability to do that. So moving over to corner, feel really good about the starting two. You got Justin Wally on one end, one side, Robinson on the other, the transfer from Bucknell. Those two are, I think, equal as far as skill level. So feel pretty good about those two. And I like the guys behind him. Zaquan Bryan didn't have a ton of playing time last year, but they've been high on him. He's had a good spring, and he did get to play against Wisconsin, so hoping that continues. And then Ryan Kelly, he's got tremendous length. So if he's out on the field, I think he's going to show off, a lot of potential out there just being the lankier corner that he is. Inside at linebacker, that's where it gets a little scary. Love Cody Lindenberg, probably your best player on defense, but then you're on to Mav and Devin Williams starting beside him when you're in the 4-3 look traditionally. But behind them, a lot of inexperience. Didn't add anybody in the portal as of yet. You can still take guys on, but we'll see how that goes. Starting nickel, that nickel D-back spot, Jack Henderson's back. He was tremendous last year. He'll probably start. They like Craig McDonald, too, who's backing him up. Then at free safety, I think the projection is Coleman Bryson will be there, and Darius Green or Aiden Gooseby, either one, at the strong safety spot. We don't know yet. And then you also got Kerry Brown in the works. And McMillan, the transfer from TCU, they said he's been taking reps at nickel and the safety spot. So my thoughts on that are, the strength that stands out, like I said, is the DNs. I mean, with Anthony Smith and Jaw Joyner rotating, and then Striganow and Jackson Howard hopefully on the other end, your top 2 on each side, I feel like, are pretty deep, and maybe the best 4 deep we've had on the edges in PJ's era. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would beat them as far as the depth. But yeah, I mean, I'll turn it over to Max. What do you think would be the strength of this defense, or anything else stand out?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely hit on it. The strength of the defensive ends and the defensive line as a whole. And we definitely saw it last year come through just from a depth standpoint. I mean, you look at just interior D line, those top four guys are going to rotate around. They've got over 15 years combined of experience. And especially you factor in that Devin Eastern, primarily going to play the three technique, but hearing that he can slide in and play that nose tackle position too, having a guy that's that skilled, be able to play both spots, gives you a lot of flexibility. Just depending on what's going on in the game, or if there's injuries or whatever the case may be, that having your top guy like that can play both spots is going to be a weapon. Linebacker position is one of those where it probably could be you could argue it could be the number 2 group behind defensive end, or it could be the biggest weakness depending on injuries and performance. Like, linebacker to me is the biggest. It's either great or it's duck and cover, because we've got so little depth and so little experience behind those guys. But hopefully with the younger guys sticking around, gaining that experience this offseason, we'll kind of see who can step up behind them. I think a guy that stands out to me, though, specifically is Jack Henderson. I'm really curious to see how he gets utilized, because even though he's kind of that nickel corner, it feels like you could kind of use him as like that roving extra safety / outside linebacker, just because he is so physical. So I'm curious how Heatherman, just with a new defensive coordinator, like, does he kind of mix him in? Does he blitz him more? Does he disguise him? I don't know.
So yeah, you went there. Now I'm gonna bring up the point that I was kind of saving. I have no indication that they're doing this. I wonder, just with how much the linebackers struggled in pass coverage overall last year and didn't look very quick outside of Cody moving sideline to sideline. I wonder if second and long, third and long situations, not saying they will do this, but if they move Jack Henderson into maybe a linebacker role, because they like McDonald behind him. They like Craig McDonald, but Craig McDonald's kind of more of your true nickel, whatever you want to call that, third corner / outside, strong safety position. That's kind of Craig McDonald's true position. So I wonder if they'll ever slide Henderson inside to linebacker. Maybe he's got the better tools of playing pass coverage. I know it's not the exact same playing pass coverage as a linebacker as a safety or a corner, but I just wonder if that's something they're considering, just with how much they struggled at doing that last year. I would love to see Jack Henderson inside. He is 6'3", 210. So not the heaviest guy, but he's got the length. Something maybe PJ's listening and he'll write it down, and we'll try it out there on the field.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Kurt. You're exactly right. Pass coverage wasn't too great last year, and I think that would definitely solve the problem. I guess in terms of what stands out, it's got to be the defensive line. I haven't been this excited about a defensive line probably since during the Kill era, honestly. This is definitely the best defensive line since in PJ's tenure here. New defensive coordinator. Hopefully there's a little more aggression. I feel like with Joe Rossi, there's a lot of conservative sort of play calling in nature there, which was fine. We had tremendous defenses, but we never really saw blitzes or us really going after the quarterback or anything like that. Maybe that changes. I am concerned about the depth at linebacker. We obviously remember what happened last year. Lindenberg's out pretty much all season, kind of relying on kind of these new guys out of, Mav and some of the other guys. But, now that they have this experience, that's great. But again, we don't really have the depth behind, even that second string guy. And I feel like the nature of the Big Ten, you're going to have probably some injuries. So I feel like we'll definitely need to have to utilize some depth throughout the course of the season. So a little worried about that.
I got to imagine they push for somebody. I know you can still commit,
have to.
Right? I mean, the portal's closed, so no one's leaving your team, but there's still guys in the portal. Right. I got to imagine they push for at least just another body, just because there's not a lot there right now.
Right. Yeah.
I do want to talk about get your guys' thoughts on the safety group because we lost Tyler Nubin, so there's not the maybe like the big star security feeling back there. But
Yeah.
take a look at like this depth chart. You got Coleman Bryson, Kerry Brown, who played a little bit in the bowl game, Darius Green, Aiden Gooseby back, and then it sounds like McMillan from TCU has been getting rotated in at safety as well and looking solid. So I don't know, like, what are your guys' thoughts? Max, we'll start with you. Just not star studded, but they've all played a decent amount of football, and you got like 4 or 5 guys at least that it sounds like they like there.
Right. Yeah, the experience helps and makes you feel comfortable. I think the biggest thing for me with this isn't even about the safeties, but the biggest thing that I guess relieves me about the safeties is just how good we are up front. Like we've got Wally, we've got Robinson, so we've got our top 2 cover corners. Health aside, we should be solid at linebacker. And then, like you just said, Spence, this is probably one of the most talented, defensive line groups we've had in a long time. So if safety is the weakness, that's the position I would choose it to be, if that makes any sense. Like it's kind of the least, the lesser of all the evils. If you had to pick one defensive position to be weak at, it'd be safety. But I don't even, like hopefully we can kind of cover them up with all the other talent around them, that they just have to do their jobs and clean up anything that slips through. And I think we should be okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think that the depth, one of the things that we did, at least I feel like last season, is like, you send 3 and then you kind of are doing kind of just a coverage, prevent the first down on kind of the third and longs. I wouldn't be surprised if PJ threw in a lot of those guys kind of in those situations, third and several yards, whatever it is, just to cover. And like Max said, and you said, Kurt, it's not like we have at this point, aside from maybe Wally, that guy that we know is going to be able to just kind of lock things down. But all these guys have a lot of talent and experience. I'm excited to see what McMillan can bring to the table. I think that we're going to see him a lot on the field this year. We'll obviously know more once camp starts and everything. But secondary, I'm excited about, and hopefully it'll play out well for us.
Yeah. Do you guys know, I didn't look this up before the show, and I should because we're putting on the show, how big is Jalen Logan Redding? Like, I wonder, because he's athletic, obviously, for a D tackle bumping in from end. I just wonder, I mean, you got help behind him. You got Logan Richter, who they like, Darnell Jeffries, who's in his 6th and final year here. So you got some big boys behind him to help out. I wonder if Jalen Logan Redding is going to be reduced to more of your interior rushing type downs, just like second and long, third and long. He's a great player. It's just those 3 guys, Jalen Logan Redding, Jaw Joyner, and Anthony Smith, their true position is all that same.
Yeah.
What I don't know if it's the rush end or whatever, the defensive end that rushes basically every time. That they're all that spot. So having Jalen Logan Redding slide inside, I think overall is a good thing. I just wonder if it's going to be a slight hit to the run defense up front.
6'4", 285 is what I have.
280?
285.
All right. Yeah, we're rolling then.
So I agree.
Yeah. And I assume on the rundowns, you're going to get Richter or whoever else to collect it up.
Goal line. Yeah. I just gotta add another linebacker for sure. I don't know what money we got from Duck Beer, but anybody that can help out, got some speed to them. And I know those guys that played last year, they were young. It's not fair. I'm sure they're perfectly fine athletes and all that stuff. They were, they were just taking everything in at once, trying to catch up, running all over the field, and it wasn't great. I like Mav. Mav is a solid guy in there with Cody. I would assume those 2 get most of the reps out there, but Devin Williams can hit people too, so we'll see what they do there.
Just hope it's like a Sori Marin situation where those first, couple seasons were a little wishy-washy, and then he ends up being one of the best defensive players.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Good
and
point.
new system. Hopefully, they thrive in it. So
And that's the thing
to
too,
be
like
determined.
with those young guys, like Mav and even Lindenberg a couple years ago, like they both played ahead of schedule, like before PJ probably would have liked them to. And
Yeah.
even though they weren't great or like they were pretty raw, but you could just tell, like, oh yeah, they're gonna be a guy. They're not ready quite yet, but they've got what it takes to be a linebacker in the Big Ten. Whereas last year you
Right.
saw some of these young guys and you were like, oh, that doesn't look the same as the guys we've
Right.
seen
Right.
before. So that was the most concerning, but that's what I hope changes, that it takes a year for them to actually get to where they need to be.
Yeah. No, PJ's talked about that too. So, we didn't get to see a lot of the spring ball, so we're all kind of projecting at this point of
Yeah.
what should happen. But guy is so
Wait,
darn
teams play
tight-lipped.
in the spring?
Yeah. I think we're the only one. I could be wrong, but whatever. I'm over it. I'm over it. I've been told it's not cool.
I should have brought it up.
So,
Should have brought it up.
yeah, we're moving on. We got another topic. What is it, Spencer?
All right. Well, next topic that we all decided to talk about is, if you all heard out there the news, Athan Kaliakmanis, the Greek rifle, has won the Rutgers starting quarterback job this spring. I think this is actually very intriguing. What are your guys' thoughts on this? What impact does it have on the Gophers? What does it mean? Curdy, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, well, I think it means a lot, to be honest.
I do too.
If he goes on to succeed and we still struggle, I think you got your answer that you need new.
Precisely.
Well, in part, it's going to be PJ. We know it's PJ not letting us throw the football, but we also know that we don't got the guy, because if he's able to go in there, I know Gavin Wisman wasn't the best passer, but he went in there and he won the starting job already in the spring. And if he goes on to have success there, it just makes you wonder. I mentioned this on the College Huddle podcast. Like, it makes you wonder how Greg Harbaugh is going to be able to develop those guys, those incoming. Actually, I think I said it last show too, but just those young guys that we got coming in that they're really high on. Greg Harbaugh is his first time as a QB coach, as long as being co-offensive coordinator. It just makes you wonder how he's going to be able to develop those guys going forward. So I think it's great that it's happening if you're a Gopher fan, because you're going to get all the answers. You're going to find out, was it my coaching? Was it the player? The truth is, it's probably a combination of both. But I wish Athan nothing but the best, and I'm hoping Rosemers lights it up.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to learn one of three things. It's either Athan had untapped talent, Athan wasn't used right, or Athan just isn't going to cut it as a Big Ten quarterback. And I hope he does well. I really have nothing against Athan, but like you said, we're going to learn, what does he do good at? Like, what didn't we do? And part of it too, I wonder, is mixing back in with, he's back with Kirk Soraka. Like, how much is that into the equation? It's not like we can get him back necessarily.
Right.
But like you said, like, if Harbaugh just isn't doing the things to bring out the best in our quarterbacks, because we're probably not always going to have the top recruit, we're not going to have the top transfer, we're not going to have the most talent coming in. I hope we can get the right guy to fit our system, what Harbaugh wants to do. But if we see, the comparison between last year and into this year with Athan, if it's a drastic difference, then you said, and we kind of have our answer.
Right. And yeah. And if this doesn't, here's the big thing, maybe the most important thing. And then Spence, I'll let you jump in if you want anything to add. Maybe if Athan goes on to just crush it, and I hope he does, except against us. We do play them this year. Maybe it shows PJ, hey, let's open this thing up. We got to get back to real offense of 50-50, at least, throwing the football around, because just the longer you stay stagnant, I think it's going to be harder and harder to get it turned around as far as getting the quarterback talent and getting receiver talent in to get things back to like they were in 2019. I'm hoping that Tyler Williams and the other guys we brought in to complement with Daniel Jackson gets us back to that 2019 passing offense, and it was really just overall a talent issue and a quarterback issue of not getting those guys the ball. So that's what I'm hoping. But should anything else on that?
Yeah, I think bottom line is we're watching. So I mean,
Yeah.
if we witness Athan be a top quarterback in the Big Ten, it's really telling about the coaching of John
You guys scared
Harbaugh.
about the
So,
revenge game for Athan? I think we go to Rutgers. If only he came here, that would have been a little bit more
if
fitting. But
if he tears up the Gophers, I just think, and if Brosmer is not doing well, I think we have the writing written all over the wall. And you know, of course, I'm not calling for anyone's job or anything, but I
yeah,
just think that if that happens, I think it's kind of apparent
Minnesota
what
fans
the
will
issue
lose
is.
it. By the way, they will be. Twitter will be nuts. Like you'll just see every
Right?
sports take you could possibly imagine. They'll want PJ
Yeah.
gone. They'll want everybody gone if that happens. But
I frankly, I don't blame people for feeling that way. If that happens, I can understand why that's frustrating. But we'll see.
I trust Brosmer.
Yeah.
Everything we've heard about
I do too.
Brosmer, I hope they both work out well and Brosmer outduels them. We got a comment here from Yogi at Fat Boys Football Focus. Did you all talk about my nephew Jackson Howard? We did. You missed it. That was we started the show with defense. We're really excited about him. I hope you helped recruit him here. Appreciate your nephew coming back home, coming to the Gophs. Thanks for tuning in. Yogi's got a channel as well, guys. So subscribe to his show. Check it out.
Yeah.
That's all we got, fellas. Comments, anything else? Anything else you guys want to talk about? Yogi's going to rewatch. Appreciate it.
I guess Yogi, what do you if you're out there still, what's one of the main things you think we'll get from your nephew Jackson
you know
Howard?
I'm better
Tell
than
us.
anybody. What should
Yeah.
we watch out for?
What should we be excited about?
We'll give him some time.
Yeah, but I think it's a tremendous ad. Like we said at the beginning of the show, I mean, it's good to have
It
someone
was the
come back
highlight
home.
of the transfer portal
Oh,
guys
for
coming
sure.
in. I mean, that was it's like you landed the number one recruit, like you said, Max. He
Right.
just came back, and he's just
Our
stronger now
group
than last
message
time.
was kind of just popping off during that time, so we were pretty excited about that.
It's just another option in there behind Striganow because you didn't have a lot of guys, so having him
Right.
get in the mix.
It is cool too that I know we don't buy into the hype quite as much between the SEC and the Big Ten, but it is cool to see to basically show that example of like you can go from the SEC to the Gophers and have success.
His willingness to learn. Well, that's awesome because he's got.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the two seniors on the ends right now in Joyner and Striganow, so yeah, it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out great.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's really awesome. Yeah,
his dad was
coming
in the
into
NFL,
it.
so that helps too. Extra support.
Oh yeah.
Development.
Yeah, willingness to
awesome.
learn. A new defensive coordinator too. Obviously, going to be a different look. Obviously, coming from a totally different conference, maybe things are going to be, type of play is going to be different. So that's great that he's willing to learn and kind of know what it's like to be a Golden Gopher. So
yeah,
we're excited to have him back in Minnesota.
I can't wait. The spring, I'm not going to get into it, but it just seems extra long. Like we got nothing out of. We didn't get. There's nothing. We only had the transfer portal news, and that's it. And thankfully, it's closed now, so we're kind of set with the team. Hopefully, get a few more ads, but actual football can't get here soon enough, and we'll be bringing content for it.
That's right. Well, with that being said, thank you all out there for tuning in to another episode of Sky U Pod. Again, be sure to check us out on YouTube, X, wherever you listen to your podcast. We're out there. We encourage you to check out our partners' website again, thecollegehuddle.com. You can find many more college football teams and podcasts and articles on that website. It's pretty awesome. Go check it out. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Like and subscribe. Row the boat, Sky Ma, and go Gophers.